Hi, I'm Jean Bragg, filming live here at Travis Jean on the set of Up Next With. You're watching MakingBib.tv.
Hello, my name is Christopher Cabanis, and I am serving as your host once again for a wonderful show entitled Up Next With. And today we're actually, and I know it doesn't really seem like it, but we're going to roll up our sleeves today and engage in a wonderful dialogue to deal with what I call a major pink elephant that has basically outgrown our individual lives, our individual rooms, homes, our communities, our churches, and even our country at large. And I believe that today is going to allow us to receive some wonderful, impactful, effective, informative information as it relates to this pink elephant called mental illness. And today we are sharing here with a wonderful, gifted, more than qualified brother and the personality of Dr. Darren Moore, who is sharing with us on today to discuss some of these ills and social issues that plague our society. This young man is gifted as well as qualified in the area of behavioral science. He works in the field of psychology or psychiatrist field for Mercer University. And so we want to just give you an opportunity, my brother, to introduce yourself and kind of let us know what all does your life entail right now, and how did you end up all the way in Macon, Middle Georgia?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come here today. So I guess I'll talk to you a little bit about my background and then maybe what I do on an everyday basis.
Okay.
And so I am originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That is the home of Prince and the Minnesota Timberwolves, Minnesota Twins. I did my bachelor's degree in African American Studies at the University of Minnesota. And as I was taking classes, I really decided to focus in on families. And so I became interested in what are some of the things that impact families, both from an external level, so what are the things that are going on around the family that impact how we interact with one another and how we experience issues and problems and concerns, and then also what are the internal things, what are the things that are happening in the family system that also impact behavior. And so I decided to, at one point I was considering law school, but then I decided I wanted to really go into family therapy. And so I relocated down to Valdosta, Georgia, of all places, and I completed a master's program there in marriage and family therapy. When I was there, of course, I did not want to stop, and so I decided to pursue the PhD in marriage and family therapy. So I relocated to Blacksburg, Virginia, and obtained the doctorate there at Virginia Tech. And so, let's see, while I was completing my dissertation, I had the opportunity to teach at Valdosta State for a year prior to coming to Mercer. And so right now I am an assistant professor in the Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences Department at Mercer University School of Medicine, and I teach in the master's program in marriage and family therapy. So I teach graduate level students on how to do therapy, how to work with individuals, couples, and families, how to address some of the mental health issues that often plague the community. I also train medical students as well in how to do family therapy. In addition, I do research and I teach a number of classes in the core curriculum.
Okay, so when we look at the whole dynamics of mental health, and we understand that over the past maybe 10, 15, 20 years, we never really heard about the challenges of mental health, although it has been around for 30, 40 plus years. But why do you think there's such a rise now in these times that we're living in? Why do you think there's such a rise and there's such an increase of individuals battling with this issue or this type of illness? What are some of the contributing factors? Because we can say all day that it may be hereditary, but I believe that a lot of times life's experiences, losses, tragedies, and unseen circumstances may be a contributing factor. But as it relates to your expertise, what do you think is causing this steady rise?
Well, one of the things I think is important for us to consider is I don't know so much that I think that there is necessarily an increase in terms of kind of the statistics here, but I think what has happened is there is an increase in the level of awareness. I think individuals, couples, and families have always struggled with issues and concerns and problems dating back many, many years. I think in terms of our attitudes about is it acceptable to even bring those issues up is something that I think is changing over time.
Correct.
I think that in the past, in many instances, things that happened within families were kept in the family.
Swept under the rug.
Swept under the rug.
Correct.
This idea that there is an elephant in the room, there's always been an elephant in the room.
Correct.
But I think that now we're starting to pinpoint the importance of addressing the elephant in the room. I think when I think about what's important in terms of families, I think that there are so many issues, so many concerns that are plaguing the family. And they are, in essence, destroying the family. And so I think there's more of a push to reunification, a focus on how do we become healthy? How do we live satisfying lives? And I think that what we're seeing is that there's less of a reluctance to really address those issues. It's still there. We still don't really want to talk about what we're really dealing with. But I think it's becoming more acceptable across a variety of, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, etc. I think there's becoming more of an issue or more of a push towards addressing those issues.
Because I also think, too, that for a lot of individuals, it was something that people kind of feared. They didn't want people to know, hey, I'm going to actually sit and on someone's couch and to discuss my own personal issues. And I think that now, because of the awareness, that a lot of people are more prone now to really being comfortable with saying it's okay for me to go and to sit and speak or converse or dialogue with a Dr. Darren Moore. It's more acceptable now, and I think that when we look at the trend, I think that there has been a great increase of these illnesses, but I think that people are now more open to embracing it as an issue, because when I look at a lot of the demands and the challenges that not only that I face as an individual, but others who come to me for counsel or come to me for direction, it's almost as if everybody is battling in the mind.
That's right.
It's almost like there's a battlefield in the mind, and it is a fight every day. And so how can individuals begin to even move to cope with this battle, or to be in a position to even survive this everyday battle? What are some of your suggestions that you would like to share, that people could utilize to begin to cope? Because you have a story.
I do have a story.
On the negatives and the positives and the advantages and disadvantages of really coping and maintaining a mental balance. Why don't you share that? Share that.
Okay. Well, first, before I tell you about my story, I think that it is important for individuals to have a level of awareness.
Okay.
And so to understand, are there certain triggers, are there certain things that are setting me off? The first thing that I think is important, though, that people need to realize, that people will realize, is that if you don't deal with your problems will deal with you. So that's first and foremost.
Well, can you say, please don't miss this. Can you say that one more time?
Okay. If you don't deal with your problems will deal with you. Okay, and so I think that that's the first thing that we need to understand. We need to acknowledge. We need to make sure that we are aware that people are struggling every single day, right? They're struggling in their mind, as well as lots of other things that are going on in this country, in this world, right? So in addition to a person struggling with how they're feeling and their emotions and their issues, then they're thinking about, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight. Or perhaps I'm dealing with joblessness, or perhaps I'm dealing with childhood abuse that I haven't dealt with, right? So people are carrying things around with them as they're walking through the day. And so I think that part of what I do when I work with individuals and couples and families is I try to work with people to, number one, first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. So let's acknowledge it. Let's not deny it. Let's actually recognize that it actually exists.
So is it safe to say that we feed the elephant silence?
We absolutely.
Which causes this elephant
to get
grow,
even bigger and to grow. Absolutely. We feed the elephant silence.
Okay.
And what happens is, see, this is the thing. We like to pretend.
Correct.
Okay, so you had me on the show. So Dr. Moore is going to go in with you, right? So we like to pretend and we like to act as if things don't exist. Okay? But what happens is they manifest anyways. So we're walking around carrying this anger, this guilt, this shame, this fear, and it's manifesting in our lives. And what we know about mental health is that it is also connected to physical health. So we could be carrying this and it can manifest in biological ways. Okay? Heart disease, brain issues, headaches, lots of just respiratory problems. These things can manifest from how we feel. And so the first thing is it's important for us to address is how do we feel? What are our emotions saying to us? And are we allowing ourselves to actually feel it, or are we trying to subdue it and act like it does not exist? So the first thing I think is extremely important is to be aware and to recognize it, that it's okay to say, hey, I'm not doing well right now. I think so. Number one, people have a problem with admitting that there is a problem, right? Because there's something that it does to us. If I am to admit that I have a problem, that is to say that I'm, not good enough. Perhaps I'm in a profession of authority.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about the church, not only are we talking about individuals that attend the church, but we're also talking about church leadership. And so to be in a position of power, one does not want to disclose necessarily that they themselves struggle. But as you mentioned, or have some weaknesses. But as you mentioned, we all struggle. We all experience issues and problems. And so let's be real about it. Let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. The pink elephant that is in existence, let's acknowledge that. And so once we acknowledge it and we give ourselves permission to experience what's going on for us, then we have to think about how do we work through that experience. And so for me, I think what I do when I work with families is I help them to walk through that experience so that that experience does not continue to dwell inside of them, right? Because at some point you want to move beyond your problems, right? So I tell people when I work with them, I say, look here, and I use my last name a lot, Moore, M-O-O-R-E, okay? First of all, you are more than your problems, more than your issues, more than your concerns, right? You are worthy of more. So let's talk about what's going on for you. and let's help you process that so that we can move on to a better future.
Now, you said something that's very interesting. It's one word that you said, walk.
Walk.
And I feel, and I hopefully you can agree with me on this, is that a lot of times we can handle these mental challenges that we have if we had someone to walk with us, to go through that process.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a great foundation for you as a therapist, to actually sit where they sit, to be where they are, because at the end of the day, that's what individuals really need. They need someone to be there. And believe it or not, a lot of people are really struggling with the issue called loneliness.
Absolutely.
And so I think that is another contributing factor. And so it is a blessing just to hear you say to walk with them through that process. And so when you talk about walking, you have a testimony. And who actually walked with Darren? Not Dr. Moore, but who walked with Darren? Not the family therapist, not the doctor with the PhD, with the master's degree or the bachelor's degree, but who walked with Darren? How did Darren get to this man that we see today?
That
with
is
all of his mental and challenges and struggles.
That is a very, very interesting, perhaps loaded question. But like I said, I'm going to give it to you straight. For me, there's been several people on my journey and in this walk. So for me, I think that I have been blessed with a number of people that have supported me and walked with me. One of the interesting things I tell a lot of my friends, for example, and just to give you some more of my background, I was raised in the inner cities in Minneapolis, predominantly African American community, low income, socioeconomic status, single parent family, et cetera, et cetera. And it's so interesting when I talk to people, I always say, well, if you walk with me, then you can ride with me.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And so I always say that to people because I do have a testimony. And I have done a lot of things in my life, in my career, but I started from the bottom, essentially.
But now you're here.
But now I'm here. And hopefully going lots of places.
Okay.
But, in terms of some of the things that I struggled with, I think I definitely had my share of dealing with depression, dealing with perhaps a dysfunctional family or things going on in our family, things that are supposed to be kept quiet or secret. And so one of the things that I did as I was trying to figure out my life and cope, for me, and everyone copes with things differently, I coped with food. Okay? So
not drugs,
not alcohol, not sexual promiscuity or any of those things. Food was my thing.
Okay.
And so I would eat and sleep and eat some more. I ate when I was upset, when I was angry, when I was depressed, when I was sad, when I was lonely, when I didn't have anyone else. And so it was a huge thing for me to figure out. And so when we talk about the elephant in the room, there really was an elephant. I mean, a physical elephant in the room for me. And I was 375 pounds.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious. And so 375 pounds.
75 pounds.
That's right. And so, and as I mentioned, some people may cope with substance abuse, or they may cope with acting out sexually, or, even suicidal ideation or suicidal thoughts. Lots of things can happen, and people, cope in different ways. But for me, that was a huge thing for me. And so I had to rely on my inner strength and my source of peace, which is God for me. I had a lot of supporters, some supporters in my family, some outside of my family. But I struggled. And it's the biggest thing that I've ever had to really deal with.
And so that's interesting because it goes right back to who's walking with us. And in being transparent, food was walking with you.
That's right.
Food was walking with you, which was a negative piece or component that was walking with you.
That's right.
But it wasn't until you centered yourself around individuals, which was a positive, that began to walk with you. But one of the things that I love is that how you spoke about basically being honest with yourself. I truly believe that every answer that we're searching for is already on the inside of us.
Absolutely.
We already possess. And so for you to sit here and to talk about having individuals centered around you and just walking with you, I truly believe that that is an interesting piece, which is why we go to speak to the psychiatrist or the psychologist or the therapist, because we need someone to identify. And so when you begin to have individuals to identify with where Darren was, to get where he was, what did that do for you? Was that a sense of affirmation? Was it even therapeutic for you to even face this 375-pound elephant, if you will?
Absolutely. It definitely was therapeutic. It's still therapeutic today. I talk to lots of people. I do workshops and training programs around obesity, around weight loss, and health and wellness in general. And one of the things that people say to me is that they can identify with me. And they can, and so there's a certain level of, kinship that I have with certain people based on a mutual experience. And so I'm not suggesting or saying that a person has to have gone through the same experience, but there's a certain way that a person can relate. And so I think that when I was going through this struggle, one of the problems within mental health, and also I'll add another piece to it, we can talk about culture, but I also think we have to talk about gender. So there's this thing about, you know what, you're a man, you're not supposed to experience problems. And if you do, no one's supposed to know about it. You're supposed to be strong, tough, brave,
that's the old
macho,
school.
right? The old school, right?
Yeah,
You're not supposed to cry and tell someone, hey, my life sucks, I feel bad, I feel lonely, right? You're not supposed to admit that to yourself or anyone. And so I think that, that has changed over the years, but I found people that have struggled like me. And so they were able to share their stories and share their experiences with me. And that let me know, you know what? I'm not out here alone. I thought I was out here completely alone, but I was not alone. There were several people that could benefit from people telling their stories. And so I think it's important for us to think about how we can let our shield down and really say, hey, I am human. I've made mistakes, but I'm here. And there is always a story behind the glory. And so for me, this is who I am. That's why when I work with clients, when they come to see me at Mercer Medicine, I'm very upfront with them. Right? I think
you have to be.
You have to be.
I mean, because the world is upfront.
Absolutely.
And the world shows us a true reality of our everyday lives. So it's definitely a fact of, being honest.
That's right.
And upfront, in that regard. But it's interesting how you said that you're still reaping the benefits even today. And it's amazing how the seeds that were sown in your life produce such an abundant harvest that now people can now glean or even eat from your fruit. Because you're willing to take them where you've been. And so do you feel that you can't take anyone anywhere or walk with them if you haven't been there?
I think for me personally, in the work that I do, I think that therapy is all about human relationships. And it's all about connecting with people. And so any way, any form or fashion or anything that you can use to connect with people, I think that is where the relationship gets established. And so, for example, everyone's going to experience anything differently. So I have my own experience of weight loss. Someone else has their own experience of weight loss. It's not identical, but there are some things that we can relate to. And so I think with that being said, for me it might be food. For someone else it might be substance abuse. For someone else it might be, some other thing. And so there's still some commonalities. And so I think that if we focus on our commonalities as people, instead of you're the client and I'm the professional, if we kind of put our guard down and just really connect with people, I think that's when we can be as much help for our work with our clients.
And people will be more prone to come for the help.
Absolutely.
When they know that the professional was once a client and may very well still be a client.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, as I mentioned, mental health professionals have problems too.
Correct.
Mental health professionals go and see another mental health professional. And it's so interesting because I was talking to someone that I know, and essentially they said, oh, well, I'm a mental health professional. I'm not supposed to need help. And I said, well, you know what? If you were a medical doctor or a surgeon and you needed your appendix taken out,
wow,
would you actually perform surgery on yourself, or would you go to another professional and ask them for help?
That is an amazing analogy.
So I think there's a stigma not only within the general community, but then I think there's a stigma even within mental health professionals that we suggest that we're supposed to have everything together, and that's the same for anyone that's in a leadership position.
I got you.
So
I am so sorry. It's almost as if our wheels are beginning to turn.
Absolutely.
And this festive dialogue is definitely gaining a lot of momentum. But we're going to have to actually bring this particular dialogue to a brief halt, to a brief close. But once again, we're just excited about having this opportunity to share with Dr. Darren Moore from Mercer School of Medicine. And once again, my name is Christopher Cabinets, serving as your host, along with Dr. Darren Moore. And hopefully we'll be able to get more expertise and more wisdom and counsel from this wonderful, qualified brother who is now in this area called Macon, Middle Georgia. And also we would like to thank Mrs. Bragg for allowing us this opportunity to come to share at 530 Cherry Street at Travis Jean. We're encouraging all of you to please come and to embrace this wonderful, beautiful, amazing art and antique gallery. She is in this area. She is a native of Macon. And so we want to definitely come to 530 Cherry Street and embrace Travis Jean. God bless you. Until next time.
I'm Bob Ficklin, and you have been watching Up Next With. Remember to visit us online at upnextwith.com.